So, I once played a game known as the Stanley Parable. In it, there is a choice presented. You may take the red door or the blue door. The narrator directs you to take the red door, but as you see here, I can take the blue door. He'll reset you if you do, and he'll direct you once again to take the red door. But you can still take the blue door. And if you do, he'll reset you and do everything he can to direct you to take that red door. But you can still take that blue door. And if you do, he'll finally respect your decision and accept it. I'd like to think that I have some experience with making choices, as I've been making them my entire life. I've even made some important life choices like joining the army or choosing to follow the Christian faith. Choices are made every day by everyone. Choices shape us and they grow to define us. And because of this, choices are very important. The action of making a choice, and choices in general, should be respected by everyone, regardless of their personal ideals and beliefs. Using 3 different problems, I will explain what could come from adopting this simple ideal. The problems we will use are the persecution and violence due to religion, the debate over the legality of abortion, and terrorism as it exists today. The first thing that we will look at is persecution and violence due to religion. I was once challenged by another person who I knew to be an atheist to prove my faith to him. When this happened, it became a very simple discussion that we had going back and forth, and I had less knowledge in the areas of science and other academics than he did. He was older and more experienced, and so I quickly became outclassed in the discussion. And as such, when I failed to provide a strong counter-argument to everything he was saying, he moved to make it more of a verbal attack on what I believed. At least that's what it seemed. And after that, everything that followed was all directed at trying to get me to instead convert to what he believed, which, as an atheist, was believing in nothing. As a result, tension developed between me and him because I didn't believe that he respected me and my religious beliefs. That wouldn't have really been the problem, but the argument was brought up by both of us later on, over and over again. Respect of others and their own choices, even after such heated discussions, would have led us to never having the same amount of problem, and it probably wouldn't have grown into anything. But even in the past, people have been shown to have conflict over beliefs and religion. Violence has been a common way for humans to attempt to change one another's religious beliefs. In the past, entire wars were fought over this. The Crusades being a great example. And they were a series of wars that two sides that were two different religions fought over one location that both had a religious significance to. Even the creation of Islam actually had a lot of violence and war in its beginning. And in the documentary Islam, the Empire of Faith, Muhammad had to fight a series of battles with his followers, or they would have been wiped out along with their religion. Both instances of violence were for the same reasons that my dispute with my other man stemmed from. Both came from the same reason. We both believed that we were right and the other was wrong. And because of that, we had conflict with one another. If everyone involved had allowed the other people to make their choice and then respected and at least allowed them to make that choice, they wouldn't have had any conflict at all. And there wouldn't have been any problems. Now let's move on to an ongoing debate in today's day and age. The debate over whether or not the act of abortion should be legal or illegal can really stem from the simple question on whether or not the choice of an individual matters. The two existing sides, really, the two existing sides, have very strong arguments for them. The side that supports abortion states, among other things, that the act of abortion should be the choice of the mother, and that it in itself is not a termination of life, but a termination of a simple bodily process. Those who believe in the pro-life idea believe that the unborn are alive and that they have the same rights as any other living human being, including the right to live. And the act of abortion is therefore unethical and unlawful. And though I believe that the act of abortion is wrong, I feel it's not my place to force another person through law to take on that same belief. I feel that the person should know all of what will happen and the consequences in both sides of the argument, and then make the decision and accept whatever consequences come from that. In the book of Genesis, it is written, "And the Lord God commanded the man, 'You are free to eat from any tree in the garden, but you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for when you do, you will certainly die.'" God himself presented man with a choice, one right and the other wrong. And because of that, and since we are not gods, we have no right in any way to try and take somebody else's choice away from them. As a member of the military, I'm well aware that the United States of America is currently at war with terrorists. Terrorists exist because of differing opinions and the will of one group to try and convert and control the choices of another. Terrorism is defined in the Merriam-Webster Dictionary as the systematic use of terror, especially as a means of coercion. Therefore, the only difference between terrorists and other people is the way that they go about trying to convince another person. And terrorists use fear. If everyone would allow the individual's own choice to be the defining factor in what they believe and what they follow, then at very least, terrorism would not be a repeat thing, because they would be forced to stop in accepting this ideal after maybe the first or second act. And then each cell would have to stop. They would have to give up because they believed that the group they were trying to convince had already made their choice. All of these issues are prominent, but could be solved or at least lessened with just one simple answer. Choices are what define us in all our life. If all people would respect one another's choice, then the world would be without a large amount of conflict. And the issues of persecution and violence due to religion, the legality of abortion, and terrorism would not be as big of an issue as they are now. I invite you all to join me in my idea. I invite you to share what you know and attempt to convince other people of what you believe, but to ultimately accept their choice and respect it, as it is their choice to make, and not ours. But, with all that being said, all I can do is give you all the information and knowledge. It's up to you to make the choice to join me in my ideal, or to stick with your own ideals.